Happy Mother's Day. So, I don't have this video as well thought out as I would typically like. Um, I'm just kind of rambling what I've been thinking about, which is kind of all my videos ever really are. It's just my thoughts are not as cohesive as usual. It was a fun day. All the nieces and nephews came over. They went in the toy room. It's like ancient archive of things from my childhood. We found this thing here. It's pretty cool. It doesn't work very well, but it still somehow works. It's a Pokedex. So that was fun and exhausting. The chaos of people. But I don't even know what I'm going to title this video yet. Just like there's so many things that could be said. And how do you say them? And in what order? But I can say that they should all be said, maybe? Or there's at least no reason not to say them. Well, maybe there is. But maybe there is a reason to not say something. That was a base assumption of this channel. The sense of another base assumption that we're all going to die someday. So why wouldn't you be your full self? Be completely unapologetic, open, honest. This is what I got. Like there's no reason to ever hold back. And that feels shitty to say because sometimes there's scenarios where it's not safe to open up. But even then, wouldn't it be worth it to be your full self, completely open, heart on your sleeve, like, nothing hidden? That feels a very Age of Aquarius. I don't know if it's genuinely better or if it's just a values thing. What do you value more? And maybe conflicting values are each equally as valid. Or maybe not. I don't know. But I rambled a little bit too far on that tangent and slightly lost track of where I was trying to go with this. Right. My previous video, I was talking about base assumptions, and another base assumption that I was making in my previous video that I kind of expressed was a base assumption, was this idea that a purpose for living that is external is an unhealthy thing because that can be taken away from you, and then suddenly you're left with no purpose for living, and that seems like a very vulnerable state to be in. Like, why would you risk that? And so I just wanted to acknowledge that was kind of an assumption, and that should be questioned. And in that video, I had mentioned that sometimes there are things that I choose to not question because I know where that questioning will lead, and it leads to a dysfunctional place where sometimes it's better to allow that dysfunction to happen, or how do I phrase that better? Like, if there's like a thing that is it's not very functional, but I choose to not question it because I know that it will make it more dysfunctional, and maybe it'll come back around, and I assume likely would come back around eventually, but that gap, that valley of like that journey, we're not ready for it yet. It would take so long, and so sometimes there's things that you leave unquestioned. And as part of this New Game Plus experiment, which is in a video game, you can start the game over with a fresh save file. I'm trying to take that concept to life. What if you just start life over? And so the one rule I had was question everything. 1 second, I think I hear someone coming to my door, so I may have to pause this for a moment. I hope that worked. That's a... Hold on, let me write that down. This is a very, very convenient function, assuming that it functions, where I can just pause a recording, and then I can resume, and it'll pick up the recording right where I left off, all still as one video file, and I don't have to stop the recording and then start a new one and have like multiple video files and then compress them together. Anyways, what was I talking about? Right, base assumptions. This is very convenient, assuming that this works, because then I didn't have to do any editing on this video. Base assumptions. The base assumption of this experiment, or the one rule that I gave myself, was question everything. And then in my previous video, and so at the end of every single video, I wanted to say question everything as like kind of a tagline, or my hair's just being annoying today. It's something I wanted to add at the end of every single video. That would be like how the thing, how everyone has like their thing. That was going to be my thing. I would end every video by saying question everything. And then in my previous video, I talked about how sometimes there are things that are better left unquestioned, at least temporarily. And then I forgot to end the video with question everything. And I thought that was interesting and worth reflecting on, or at least acknowledging. Yeah, acknowledging and attempting to reflect on that sometimes when something is so foundational, like if you've built an entire life, a skyscraper, upon this cracked bedrock, sometimes it's like we don't want to pull that out because it's going to collapse. And so we just continue to build on a cracked foundation. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You do need to halt everything that's happening. But sometimes you can't. Or can you, right? And there's things to question, like, but I think all of this was relevant to Mother's Day because the experiment was all about actually, I put it really well in my journal this last summer. It might be in my other notebook. The absurdity, the inexpressible absurdity of attempting to give life another try when there is no will to do so, right? The mothering energy is the source of everything, of all life. And this entire channel, this new game plus this starting a fresh save file of a game, but applying that to real life. Like, let's just step back, hold on, reassess, start over. That inexpressible absurdity of doing that when you don't want to, but doing it anyway. There's something there. I don't know what, not right now. But that is the state that I've been in for the past 5 years, 9 years, 9.5, 30 years, to varying levels. And I can say that not entirely without fear of other people's concerns as a reaction to that, but I can say that because, fuck it, we're all gonna die someday, so why wouldn't I be completely open and honest about something? If you're trying to fix something but you can't see what you're doing, good luck, right? So that's like step one with mental struggles, mental illness, whatever. You gotta get rid of the stigma. You gotta be able to open up and talk about it and see, like, what the heck are we dealing with here. At a bare minimum, we have to be able to talk about it. You cannot address things that are kept festering away in the darkness. You gotta shine a light on it, at a minimum. Because then you can at least see what it even is. And so that's why I say a lot of very uncomfortable things in my videos, a lot of things that other people are like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you say that shit at all, let alone post it on the internet? Well, because the more strongly people want to suppress something, the more strongly it needs to be expressed. You cannot depress and suppress stuff down. That's literally depression. Right. Dumb. So, happy Mother's Day, everyone. Welcome to the screaming, painful, terrifying, chaotic nightmare that is existence. We all came into this world screaming in terror and pain and confusion. And so I find it very fitting. I find it silly that I wouldn't expect this New Game Plus experiment of, like, starting a fresh life, so to speak, trying to view every experience that I have with fresh eyes. It seems absurd that I would not expect that experiment to invoke a similar experience of, like, what this screaming, crying, confusion, panic of trying to wrap your head around whatever the fuck all of this is. the conscious experience of existence. Question everything.